Family by Marco Herrera. That's me. These are the 20 families I pulled data from. You might recognize them: The Godfather, American Dad, Family Guy, a bunch of families. You can pause and look at them if you want. So this is the data I pulled. 45% of them were white, 55 non-white, 95 lived in the same residency, the same house. 80% have biological children, 20% didn't. The the couple, 95% of them were heterosexual, and then 5% were non-heterosexual. That's 1 out of 20 families. 85% were married. 15% were not married. The conclusions I drew from that are actually very similar to those values of a good family, of a normal family, of a socially respected family, uh, stated by Murdoch, that they would be heterosexual, that they would be married, that they will be biologically related, and not the parents obviously, but the children, and that they live in the same residency. Now we could talk about all five or four of these, but I'd like to talk about heterosexual and married representation, or at least what the media thinks. Right. So in the data, it said that there was 95% of the families were heterosexual, 5% were not heterosexual. I think this is a huge problem. I mean, only 1 out of 20 families were not heterosexual, meaning that they don't get representation either intentionally or purposefully because of various reasons. I think it is intentional because, as you can see, this whole list of things is claimed by a psychologist named Wardell. And this is not only views shared by Wardell, but also views shared by psychologists, by sociologists, or perhaps, different people, scholars, people in regular society. And these are big stereotypes, negative stereotypes, and like negative beliefs on non-heterosexual families and their children. The children will apparently suffer confusion about their gender and sexual identities. They will are more likely to be molested, are more likely to lose their parents, more likely, to have psychological, breakdowns or whatnot. And this is a big problem because this is just a stereotype, a negative image of the family, of a non-heterosexual union. And this is actually debunked by Judith Stacy and Timothy J. Bliblars in How Does the Sexual Orientation of Parents Matter, where they actually debunk this by a bunch of studies. And in some cases, they said that non-heterosexual parents were better than some heterosexual parents in some aspects. But regardless, it said that non-heterosexual parents and heterosexual parents, there's really no difference. They have the same quality time with their children. They have the same relationship, the same care, the same everything, except obviously the social stigma and some other things different from the sexuality. But other than that, they're basically the same. So why does the media only represent them 5%? So the two reasons that I have are obviously this. Even though it's false, they don't want to promote this type of union because of these bigoted beliefs. Now, the second reason is a more underlying notion that the purpose of the family, as proposed by Mary Bernstein in the marriage contract, is to procreate and then the workforce. So the procreation is just to have more children, create children, and then that children would obviously join the workforce or be contribute to society. Now, the non-heterosexual union does not support this process. I mean, they can, but the media doesn't believe this. People don't believe this, and paired with negative stereotypes and beliefs about them, these are just two reasons why uh, they don't have a lot of representation in the media. And anything else that's not, you know, the 95% of heterosexual pairings is not normal. It's not right. It's not good. It's not something societally respected. And actually, this is made clear in some of the other cartoons, or not cartoons, but media. Like in Family Guy, there's a lot of homosexual jokes. In other shows, there's just a lot of degrading stereotypes of non-heterosexual unions and relationships and people, and all of this just feeds into the hate. Regardless, the media does not want to portray this union and possibly uh, spread the notion that non-heterosexual unions are normal, that they're respected, that they're a possibility you can have if you really feel inclined to do that. Now, the second aspect that I wanted to talk about was marriage and how marriage should be, according to the media, that they should be long term, monogamous, no divorce, and this all relates to possibly the marriage reform uh, era that we're in. So, in Christian class, contesting the culture of monogamy, it is socially constructed that the structure of monogamy is consisting of two people that have dignity, maturity, reliability. They have self control, reason, and the most important one of all, true love. So anything else that is not monogamy, that is polyamorous or any different union, is not worthy or is not thought of as with having the same qualities as monogamy, and that is just one of what monogamy is. This all just goes into play to demonstrate that monogamy is the only socially respected, the only common, a union and relationship type, and that families that are not monogamous are not normal, they're not right, they're not good, they're not, virtuous or dignified or whatever word they may be used. And so this just shows, and to my next point. So the conclusion, the media makes us compare, and obviously we're not going to be perfect family, so it makes us fall short, and once you fall short you start becoming divisive, becoming angry, becoming socially restricted or socially. So I talked about things that aren't, for example, that there is no representation of non-heterosexual families, that there is no representation of polyamorous families, or other families that are non-monogamous. And this may seem kind of like a big statement to make, or a big conclusion, or something far stretched, but in North American Family by Karen Pike also, um, the many conclusions that teenagers, that grown-ups, adults, children were able to make from media portrayals is what is good and bad. So what is good would be often showed in families, it'd be promoted, it'd be shown, it'd be put out there for everyone to see, and what is bad wouldn't be represented, it wouldn't be shown, or would be shown in a negative light. So the fact that there's families that are not being demonstrated in the public eye of media, it just goes to show that they believe and that they're bad, or that they don't want to show them, or they're too ashamed, or not ashamed, but perhaps it goes against their narrative, so they don't want to show it. And then the effect is us noticing these things, picking up subtly in our subconscious that these families aren't normal, our family isn't normal, non-heterosexual families aren't normal, they're not good because they're not being shown, or they're not good because they're being made fun of. Or so all these implications that they make, or that they don't make, or that they show or that they don't show, all compiles at the end, and then we give meaning to it. As a society, we believe that families should be, like Murdoch says, they should be heterosexual. They should be uh, like the children should be biologically related. We should all live together. We should have a non-heterosexual. This all creates a narrative within society and within ourselves. So we have a description of what is good and bad, what is right and wrong, and ultimately this can lead us down a path of making our own conclusions, which maybe not, maybe something we don't want or are supportive of, or like the Asian American children, American Family by Karen Pike, that they weren't aware of, or that they had a skewed perception of what was good and bad. And in the same manner, we can have we can have our own judge in our own head, that's very influenced by this ideological code of what is good, what is bad, as I already talked about. When in reality, it's up to yourself to make your own decision. Even though the media would like us to believe that marriage, that a family should look like this, should act like this, or whatnot. And that is it for my presentation. I hope you enjoyed.